बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम नाज़रीन, देसी टीवी यूएसए की खुसूसी रिपोर्ट के साथ मैं हूं रुमैसा कुरैशी। 23 अगस्त 2024 को एथनिक मीडिया सर्विसेज की जानिब से चैलेंज ऑफ प्रोसिक्यूटिंग हेट क्राइम के मौजू पर कॉन्फ्रेंस का इन्नकाद किया गया। कॉन्फ्रेंस में मुनतार तपाजी, कॉनी एरॉन वेस्ट और मंजोशा कुलकानी ने कैलिफोर्निया में बढ़ते हुए नफरत अंगेज जराइम की वजूहात और असरात पर रोशनी डाली। कॉन्फ्रेंस में इंसाफ में ताख़ीर, प्रोसिक्यूशन के चैलेंजेस, अदाद-ओ-शुमार में तफावुत, पुलिस और अदलिया की जवाबी कार्रवाइयों की मुनासबत पर सवाल उठाया गया। मुतासरीन की मदद और इसके साथ मुतासरीन, पुलिस और अदलिया के दरमियान मौजूद खला को ख़त्म करने की अहमियत को उजागर किया गया।
Your moderator for today's briefing. Over the past 2 years, EMS has partnered with many of your news organizations for our collective work on the California versus Hate initiative. And your work has shed light on awful and tragic incidents that might have gone unreported otherwise. So first, a big thanks to all of you for being the eyes and ears of our various communities. Now, as you may know, in 2023, a total of 1,970 hate crimes were reported by law enforcement agencies in California, but only 5 actually went to trial, according to data from the California Attorney General's office. And in 2021, by contrast, when the state was experiencing some of the highest levels of hate crime it had ever seen, just 1 case went to trial. So today we're going to discuss why hate crimes are so difficult to prosecute and why so few actually result in a conviction. We have some tremendous speakers for you today. Monthanis Ratanapakdi, whose father 𝐵𝐷𝐄 was killed in what appeared to be a hate crime as he was walking around his San Francisco neighborhood. Kunni, a young bartender who was pepper sprayed as her attackers yelled, "Go back to your country." Kunni is going to keep her video off as her attacker lives in the same neighborhood where she lives with her daughter. Aaron West, Santa Clara County Deputy District Attorney. Aaron has prosecuted hate crimes for 26 years. And a familiar face, Manjusha Kulkarni, the co-founder of Stop AAPI Hate and executive director of the AAPI Equity Alliance. We will send a video of today's briefing along with expanded bios for each speaker later on today. And we will also send video excerpts of the presentations early next week. So we begin with Monthanis. As I mentioned, her father 𝐵𝐷𝐄 was fatally knocked to the ground as he took his daily walk around his neighborhood in San Francisco. Jessica, could you please share Monthanis's video from Facebook?
Yes, give me a second.
Thank you. It's a quick video. Why don't we do this? While Jessica is queuing up the video, Monthanis, could I ask you the first question? Could you describe briefly what happened on that horrible day when your father was attacked?
Yes. 3 years ago, my father's Vishal Ratanapakdi, right? And 84 years old, Thai American. He was on a morning walk in the morning in San Francisco, and the man who's killing him during his morning walk pushed him on the ground, and he very severe on his head and trauma, and then my father died 2 days later. And the suspect has been in a county jail since January 30, 2021. He is being held without bail and on 1 charge of the murder and 1 charge of the inflicting injury on the elderly person, to my dad,
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that he's been held for almost 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
How does that make you feel that the arc of justice has been delayed for so long?
My family feeling like justice delay is justice deny. Yeah. And the district attorney office has not pursued hate crime charge. Framing hate was not a motivating factor.
Here's the video. Let's watch the video, and then I have some more questions for you. I'm sorry, that must be really hard for you to watch, Montanes.
Yes, it's a heartbreaking to our family. And, when that happened to my dad, and then it's sparking because on the viral on the media, right? And the anti-Asian hate movement and everyone. And then after my father passed away, and I lead the rights awareness for the anti-Asian American people. Yeah. And my dad's death is a shed light on the fear Asian American face, and with many too scared of the report crime due to the distrust in the justice system, I believe. And then we should not be silent anymore for our Asian American. Yeah.
Absolutely. You just made a very critical comment there that, the community has a distrust of the justice system. Could you talk a little bit about what distrust you had of the justice system?
I keep going to the hearing, since 3 years it has been delayed. I believe the justice system must change, prosecutors should priority victims' right. We have a mercy law. The victim right should have the priority, speed trial. And for me, I'm feeling like we are both need fair trial, me, victim, and the defendants. And we are elect district attorney to representing us, but we must, as a family, I'm a daughter, I'm standing up for my father, right, yeah. And then I'm keep going to the hearing. Even the prosecutor said, gonna be take so long, for the homicides, take like 8 years to 10 years. But I said, I'm gonna keep showing up, because this is my dad.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. You have spoken to prosecutors so many times to try and get hate crime charges added to this case. What have prosecutors told you about why they are not adding hate crime charges?
They don't have any evidence or can claim a charge for them claiming a hate crime for motivate factor. Yeah, that's they told us. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And why do you and your family believe that this is a hate crime nonetheless?
Because on the preliminary hearings, we saw the video when he turned around, right? You just saw it, and he celebrated himself when he attacked to my dad, choking him. But before he running from the across street to my father, he said the word, "What the F? You look at me for 3 times." That's mean like you look at the target, and you know who he is. And when you attack to my dad already, you walk back to your car and grab some object and come back to my father's body and bend down. And you not even call the ambulance to help my dad. You just look at some old man to have a blood all over his head, and you walk away with your girlfriend. Yeah.
That's terrible. And it came completely unprovoked. There was nothing that provoked this attack.
Yes.
To your knowledge.
Yeah, in my knowledge, yeah. And some of the trials coming, I cannot share anything that much too. Yeah. For my yeah.
When is the trial finally?
They not set the trial yet, but we have a hearing every month. This hearing coming August 28th. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Got it. Montanes, how confident are you that you and your family are going to be able to find justice for your dad?
I keep talking to the prosecutor, and then I told him like we're gonna keep pushing to the jury and then let the judge to be make decision, and jury make decision what is coming out, and hopefully the prosecutor gonna representing your job, like what is coming out for the evidence, what do you have, and we cannot share that much. Yeah. that recently.
Yeah.
And hopefully who's the one is commit the crime, right? You did a murder, you should be like prosecuted. Yeah.
Absolutely. Will you be satisfied if the suspect is only charged with attempted murder? Will that clear it for you, or do you need to see that hate crime charge added? And why is that important to you?
Because I think it's a hate crime charge. It's a challenging to charge a hate crime charge. You have to have evidence. You have to have a lot of supporting to charge a hate crime, like a verbal or some stuff to charging, like the object when he walked back to my father's body, and I tried to ask already to prove, and that's why we have to see in in trial what's coming up. Yeah. I cannot share this time. Yeah.
Absolutely. Reporters, I'm going to ask one more question of Montanas, and then I'm going to turn it over to you to ask questions as well. So Montanas, you've established a foundation, Justice for 𝐓𝐷𝐄. Could you talk a little bit about your foundation and why you founded this in your dad's honor?
Yeah, we would like to keep his legacy continue, and we would like the next generation to continue to see what's going on in this day for people disrespect to the Asian American, and Asian Americans still still scared to report the crime. It's not about the hate crime, even crime, like you still like be silent, you not stand up and you do something for yourself, and your family. And then we want to show them as a sample, like this time for your next generation to taking care of your family. And then we don't want in our society to see this violence in our society.
Okay. And please
and
go ahead.
We would like them to understand the justice system is not about you report the crime and gonna be finished. You have to fight for justice. You have to go to the hearing. You have to receive all the resource. Everything is taking so long, for the system. Yeah.
Yeah, and in San Francisco, you managed to get a very visible symbol by which people can remember your father. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, my father's face as a grandpa for everyone, and we proud of it, and we proud for the Asian American too. We don't want that happen to our elderly. At this day, after 3 years, still that happen. Even the crime going down, but it's only the reduced for the property. But the hate crime still the same data, but we didn't have any numbers going up because people is not reported crime. Yeah. And we want our Asian American to be acknowledged about how to report the crime, how to report the hate crime, because the federal acts already passed for the anti-Asian hate, right? Yeah. And we should know about what we have to stand for, your right and human right. Yeah.
Absolutely. You managed to get a street named for your dad in the neighborhood where he
Yes,
lived.
in San Francisco, and then the one is an Asian American name, the first in California. Yeah. We want to remind people and next generation to know, and we want to encourage any family to. We don't want that happen to anyone, but if something happen, you can do it. Like a Sasana Yi, her grandmom Yiku, she have her park renamed street too. We want to remember the elderly who just a sadness, for that happened to them. Yeah. And we want our Asian American to stand up. Like we don't want anyone to do that again to our generation. Yeah.
Thank you, Montanas. We will save questions until after 𝐶𝐿 speaks. So please stay on, and we will move on to 𝐶𝐿. 𝐶𝐿, Jessica, could you please share the video of the attack against 𝐶𝐒? The video was not clear, but what was happening was that 𝐶𝐒, a bartender in the Tenderloin district in San Francisco, was verbally and physically attacked with pepper spray after hours. The bar was about to close down for the night. The two suspects came in as the bar was shutting down for the night and wanted to play a game of pool, wanted to have a drink, etc. 𝐶𝐒 let them know that the bar was closing down, and that is when the altercation began. So 𝐶𝐒, I'm going to ask you to describe the incident yourself. Welcome. Are you on? 𝐶𝐒?
Hello. Yes, I'm on. Yes.
Yes. Could you please describe what happened that night?
That night, I was like really shocked at that moment because was cleaning the restroom and I heard like a loudspeaker from outside, right? And then I walked out and asked her, "Can I see your ID, please?" I told her like the bar closing, and she want to cut the line to play a game of pool, and she not the customer, and she called me to tell me like those guys who play pool, they are racist. They don't want her to play pool, but the pool table was occupied. They are playing, and she just want to cut the line and play right away, you know. And I say, "I'm sorry. I'm closing the bar. I'm cleaning up right now. I'm afraid you don't have time to play pool." And then she got mad because I don't let her play. She called me I'm racist. She called me like an Asian B, and keep calling me Asian B word whole time, like many times in the video. And after she pepper sprayed me, she told me like, "Go back to your country." She keep repeating, saying that. You know, I very was shocked. I was really shocked and wonder why she target only me, because I was the weaker one, or am the easy target for her because I'm the only Asian women in the bar. Like why she didn't attack someone else, why she only want to target me. Yes.
Right, right. And at what point did she begin to pepper spray you?
Because like because like I feel unsafe, and I call the police, and then she just pull out her pepper spray from her pocket, and while I was on the phone with the police 911, she started pepper spray me.
Okay.
Yeah, because she asked me to fight outside, but I just want to finish my job and go home, you know. And I don't know why she did that to me too.
Right, right. When police came, what kinds of questions did they ask?
They asked what happened, how it happened, and what did she do to me. and wrote down all the reports for what happened and asked the witness what happened.
Okay.
Yes.
And you submitted the CCT. We showed a very brief portion of a much longer video, but you submitted all that video to both the police and the prosecutor. And you were told by the prosecutor that this was not a hate crime, correct?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Why
Yes.
did the prosecutor tell you this was not a hate crime?
It seems like the prosecutor didn't take my side. Even he looked at the evidence and he didn't see, he said he didn't hear the part like go back to your country. So I have to show him again, you know, and I felt like he didn't review the video. And he say it's like the prosecutor said it like didn't look like the hate crime. Yeah, he said the current categorization of the crime does not reflect the severity of the incident.
Right.
Yeah, because the simple transcript of the video would show the prosecutor's view of the result being related solely to the denial of playing pool is inaccurate.
Interesting. And so the woman who attacked you, allegedly attacked you, we should say, I'm sorry, but in this case we do have to say that, the woman who allegedly attacked you is now out free. She
Yes.
was not charged with anything. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Did the prosecutors tell you why they put no charges on her?
When I went to court, her attorney say she want her record to be clear. Even she got arrested twice before, and then this is a third time. And because she has a kid, that's why she will not charge from the felony assault to the misdemeanor. I think like even the prosecutor he seems like he want to adjust to review this charge from felony assault to the misdemeanor because she has a kid.
Right.
Yes.
Interesting. So I see a couple of questions. One for you and one for Montanis. How does someone who's experienced hate heal from the attack? Do you feel that you have recovered, and what was the most helpful to you in healing? Kuni?
Yes. Yeah. I still have like my past traumatized syndrome. I had to go to see the psychiatrist every Wednesday, every week to manage my anxiety and panic attack. I still feel it every time I walk on the street. I feel fear living in the neighborhood, and I don't feel safe. I'm still scared for what happened. I still have to go see psychiatrist to manage my fear, my anxiety.
Absolutely.
Yes.
In an interview that we did together, Kuni, you told me that you felt that you were attacked twice, once by the suspect and then again by the prosecutor's office. Could you explain that statement?
Yes, because like I feel the prosecutor, like I said before, like didn't take my side. Even he looked at the evidence, it just feel unfair for me. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Henrietta Burrows has a question for Montanis. Henrietta, will you please identify your news organization and ask your question?
Yes, thank you, Sunita. It's the East Palo Alto Center for Community Media, and the newspaper is East Palo Alto Today. And I was wondering how long it takes usually to bring a case to trial in San Francisco, and is the time that it's taking to prosecute the father's murder, is that an average time or is that unusual?
Montanes, how do you
Yes,
feel about
yeah.
that?
Yeah, when they told me, they said the homicide case is taking like 8 to 10 years, and I said, so why it's taking long time? They said it's normal in general for them, for San Francisco, and they even talk about the pre-deal, pre-deals, but our perpetrator, they're not even pre-guilty. So, and that's why I talked to the prosecutor, like, we will not make agreement for the pre-deal. We're going to push forward to the jury trial. This is what the family want. And my family in Thailand, my sister, my mom with me in San Francisco, we look forward for the justice for my dad. So we will not agreement for the pre-deal. We can wait another 8 years or 10 years, yeah. But now it's 3 years now, yeah.
Wow. And Araceli Martinez has a question for both of you. Araceli, would you please ask the question and identify your news organization?
Hi, this is Araceli Martinez, a reporter with La Opinión. I was wondering if, based on your experience, do you think people in charge of justice, police, and judges if they are well equipped to deal with these issues? Because listening to you, I feel that they are not. But I would like to see, what do you think?
Can they? Yeah. My case, and then 𝐶𝐒 case. I'm the one is the advocate for 𝐶𝐒 case. Let me answer my case. I would like to thank you to the SFPD because they arrested the perpetrator right away after my father passed away 2 days later. And 𝐶𝐒 case, my experience. Sorry, I have to answer for her because she's the SFPD is coming to the scene right away in 2 minutes. And 𝐶𝐒, they charged her to the jail for 2 days for the felony assault, even in the police report in the felony assault. So, and then we are at the amendment, right, for the hate crime, anti-Asian hate. So, like a video said, go back to your country. But all the thing is a prosecutor and district attorney office, they not charge the hate crime. Thank you.
Kuni, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, Miss, I want to thank you, Miss Montanez and Jesse Favisha, for helping me out because I'm afraid I at first, like, I don't want to speak up about this, but I think like I have to stand up for myself and fight for the justice. Yeah. And
Absolutely. Henrietta Burrows has another question, but Henrietta, let me save your question when we come back at 11:51 to ask questions of all speakers, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you. We move on next to Santa Clara Deputy District Attorney Aaron West, who, as I mentioned, has prosecuted hate crimes for 26 years. Aaron, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your remarks. Please begin.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful for this opportunity. I've been a prosecutor in Santa Clara County for 26 years, and during my time there, I have developed an expertise in hate crimes cases. I'm really fortunate in that Santa Clara County takes these cases extremely seriously. We have a team. Our procedure is such that when any case comes into Santa Clara County for review by the district attorneys, we have at least 2 people review them for hate crimes. Everyone that is designated a hate crime or has a victim suggests that it's a hate crime gets marked, and we take a look at that as a group. There are certainly times where we don't agree, but when we don't agree, then we'll bring in a third person. We take these cases very seriously and we evaluate them seriously. I also want to tell you how much empathy I have for people who are suffering from being attacked in this way. Listening to both of those stories, my heart breaks for you, and I am so sorry that this has been your experience with the criminal justice system. I think that a lot of times that there might be reasons why something happens, but they're not adequately explained. And so I really appreciate this opportunity to be with you today, and talk to you a little bit about what a hate crime is, how we decide to prosecute it, and then talk a little bit about the statistics you've been given, and then also mention some specific comments with regard to the two cases we heard, because I'm so sorry. I don't like that to be your experience in the criminal justice system. So I'll talk specifically about them after I sort of lay the groundwork. When we charge a hate crime, there's a difference between a hate crime and a hate incident. A hate crime means that we can see that a crime has occurred. And in both of the cases that you just heard, we know that a crime has occurred. We know that a man has been killed and a woman has been pepper sprayed. Those are crimes. And so when we look to whether we can charge a hate crime, we look to determine whether there was a bias that was displayed and whether or not that bias was a substantial reason for the crime being committed. So when I look at Cooney's case, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to hear everything, or I'm sure that there's other evidence that could be evaluated, because it sounds like Cooney had other things that she wanted to show. Her situation is a classic situation of there's more than one reason this attack happened. So it appears, again, I wasn't there. I don't want to second guess my peers, but in explaining to you how this might have happened, I can imagine a situation where a prosecutor is looking at this and thinks, okay, there's more than one reason why this happened. And the reasons could be, and by this, I mean the pepper spraying. The reasons could be this person didn't like that Cooney said they couldn't play pool. And it could also be true that the reason why they pepper sprayed her is because they had a bias, an anti-Asian bias. And so when there are more than one reason why this could have happened, we need to be able to say that the bias was a substantial factor. And so I don't want to second guess what that person's decision made, but that's how that decision gets made. What I will say is, if those are the real reasons that the prosecutor is offering up in terms of that because this person had a child or whatever, then I can understand how those would be very frustrating to a victim. And I can understand how that it would be excruciating to continue to live in a neighborhood where this person, it feels like, got away with something. And I'm empathetic, and I get it. And for Montana's family, when I hear about a situation where a crime is taking that long, when Montana said that there isn't even a trial date yet, wow, I don't like hearing that. And I understand that we are in a different place post-COVID. I understand that things stacked up during COVID. I understand that it takes a long time for things to move through the justice system. But that doesn't mean that any of that is okay. And that sure doesn't mean that any of that can sit well with a victim at all. And Marcy's Law is here for a reason. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Marcy's Law, it's a victim's rights law. And it requires prosecutors to keep victims updated with what's happening with their case. It's designed to recognize that victims have rights in the system too, when I can understand that a lot of times it doesn't feel like you have any rights, and it feels like we are tiptoeing around trying to make sure that the defendant's rights are not impinged. And I can understand the feelings that victims and victims' families must be feeling when they are walking through this. And so to that, I would say something that I always say, which is when we get angry about something and we see an injustice, then I see that as an opportunity. And I see that as an opportunity to try and make things better. And it may not be the time in your life while you are still in the middle of this to do this, but perhaps there comes a time in your life where you see an opportunity to advocate for victims and advocate for change in how long it takes for things to go through the justice system and for the way that you felt you were treated by the system, because we've got to do better. So that's how I feel about these two cases. What I want to tell you is you asked me to talk about how difficult it is to prosecute hate crimes. And when we look at hate crimes and we talk about how we have to prove that someone has committed this crime and that the reason they did it was because of a bias, that means we have to prove how that person was thinking. And so that can be tricky, but it doesn't mean it can't be done. And so, like I said, in Santa Clara County, we take this very seriously. We were the first county in the nation to respond to what we were seeing as Asian female victims being targeted with purse snatches. And the reason why they were being targeted, the suspects told us, was because we thought they carry a lot of money in their purses and it would be easy to knock them over. And so we understood that to be a bias, and we charged that as a hate crime, and we got convictions for that hate crime. So I think an unfortunate piece of this, and then I'll be sure to pass on quickly, is that the way the statistics are compiled are giving you a incomplete picture of what's happening. So if I could just describe the DOJ statistics, and I know because I do them every year, and I've done them every year, is they ask, how many cases were brought to you this calendar year? Okay, and so for Santa Clara County, I can tell you that last year it was 32 cases were brought to me for issuing. And then it says, well, of those, how many did you issue as hate crimes? Well, the answer is 20. Because, and I think that's a good thing, because they're bringing us more, and we're looking at those and we're saying, is that a hate crime or not? What that means is our police officers are saying, I don't know if this is a hate incident or a hate crime, but please review it. And we are looking at those, and so we issued 20 hate crimes. Now, the way the form works is, of those 20, how many got tried? Well, if you heard what Montana's told you, we're not going to try any of those this year. So the answer is going to be 0. Now, that doesn't mean we didn't try hate crimes that year, because we probably tried hate crimes from last year, but those are not getting picked up. So unfortunately, it is a very misleading statistic. So to say that only 5 went to trial that year, not true. Probably a lot more than 5 went to trial, but only 5 of the 2,000 that were issued that year. When you've got a slow justice system, you're not going to pick up those. And so what I would call for, if I were sitting where you all are sitting and are concerned about accurate reporting, I'd say, hey, DOJ, you need a better system, because what you're compiling is not accurate. What you want to know is, how many hate crimes did your county try that year? Not how many hate crimes of the 20 you issued this year, because you're going to get 0 every time. And you're going to think, wow, nobody cares about hate crimes. Because the truth of the matter is, in Santa Clara County, we care very much about hate crimes, and we try hate crimes and we get convictions for hate crimes. So I would suggest that we kind of shake the trees at the California Department of Justice and see about getting a form that better reflects it. So I hope I didn't go over my time. I'm delighted to be here. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm very empathetic to victims who are navigating a really tricky justice system.
So, Erin, that was such a fascinating piece of information that you gave us right there. And I think that helps to answer some of the concerns that a lot of us have been having. Terrific. Thank you. And there are a number of questions for you in the chat. Manju, we'll start with you at 11:45, if that works.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we've got questions. The first one is from Aitana Vargas. Aitana, would you identify your news organization and ask your question? I'm not sure that Aitana is still on with us, but I'll ask the question. Is there an intersectionality between a hate crime and rape? For instance, is it more difficult to prosecute rape cases motivated by hate? And Aitana says, I know that's a broad question, but I was wondering. Erin?
Yeah, I'd love to tell you about a very specific case that happened in Santa Clara County. It was a woman going to work early morning, and she was at the train station in downtown San Jose. She was walking to work, and she was attacked from behind by someone who pulled her down and attempted to rape her. And we charged that as a hate crime. He made some very specific statements at the time about how he hated Asians and he was going to make her pay. And so I would say that in my 26 years, I haven't seen very many cases like that, where I've seen tons of cases where the bias is carried out with spitting or with hitting or with damaging a vehicle, but very rarely do I see it played out in a sexual way. But when it did, we charged it and we convicted him of it.
Interesting. Rosanna Huang asks an interesting question. Is the language of hate crime vocabulary somehow determined by political parties' intentions? And that is an interesting question. Would you mind answering it?
Yeah, I guess I maybe need some clarification. All right.
I think she's asking, is there bias in the way you determine what is and isn't a hate crime? Yeah, based on political intentions.
I can imagine that. I can imagine, I would hope not. Our duty as prosecutors is to review a case and determine if we believe that 12 people will convict. And if 12 people will believe beyond a reasonable doubt that this person was a victim of a hate crime, then we charge it. So no, it should not be motivated by politics. Do we see a lot of things in life right now motivated by politics? Yeah. Could that influence how people issue cases? Sure. It shouldn't. I hope it doesn't. Could it? Sure.
Fantastic. Erin, thank you so much. Please stay on for final questions. We move on to Manjusha Kulkarni, the co-founder of Stop AAPI Hate. Manjusha, welcome.
Thanks so much, Sunita, to you and to Sandy for the invitation to participate in this very important panel discussion. I also wanted to just start off by expressing my deepest sympathies to Montanas and also to Kuni. I'm so sorry to the entire Ratana Bhakti family for your loss, and also Kuni to you for what happened. My background is that I'm one of the co-founders of Stop AAPI Hate, and I also serve AAPI Equity Alliance, where I'm the executive director, serves as the regional lead for the statewide Stop the Hate project for the Los Angeles region. And so what I wanted to address first is this issue of hate crimes prosecution and why we're not necessarily seeing and victims and survivors feel like they are not always getting the justice that they seek and that they deserve. there was a really important report issued by the state auditor of California in 2018 about the challenges of prosecuting hate crimes. I'm happy to put the link in the chat in a moment. But what the state auditor found in looking at 4 different law enforcement entities in our state is that there were some significant patterns. One was the failure of law enforcement to properly identify crimes as hate crimes. Number 2, failure to report to the Department of Justice. Not enough trainings being done of law enforcement so they understand. And finally, prosecutors not always prosecuting as hate crimes. So let me take the first of those. Why are law enforcement officers not identifying these? There are a couple of different reasons. One is we know from past studies that often when law enforcement lives in that city or area, they have a reluctance to see things as hate crimes because they don't want to believe that their city or their region is a hateful one. Right. And that's, very natural, of course, but that can get in the way and impede the prosecution. The other where it pertains to Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders is that often the hate that we see is not necessarily universally accepted as hate in the same way as, say, a cross burning, right, is identified as an anti-Black and racist incident. A swastika is viewed as being against the Jewish community and anti-Semitic. So often, even in the Atlanta shooting where 6 Asian women were shot and killed by a perpetrator who went out of his way to find Asian salons or parlors, massage parlors. 2 of the 3 county DAs have chosen not to prosecute those as hate crimes because they don't think that to them there's evidence of animus. I also want to get to the question of, prosecutions. As Aaron mentioned, you need to have evidence of bias, right? And that is sometimes hard. Where I would disagree with her slightly is, simply having a victim who is Asian American or who is a person of color doesn't necessarily make it a hate crime. It could be a crime of opportunity. Often, for example, in the Indian community, which I come from, around the time of Diwali, there are a wave of home robberies. So in my mind, that wouldn't be necessarily a hate crime or a bias motivated crime. It would be a crime of opportunity. You know that Hindu women will have very nice gold jewelry that they get out of the bank safe deposit box and they keep in their homes. So these are some of the challenges. Let me say this, though. What's very important is knowing, and I say this as a co-founder of Stop AAPI Hate, of the 11,000 plus incidents that we received, and we are the nation's leading resource and center on anti-Asian hate, that the vast majority are not crimes at all. And I think this was mentioned by Montanas and Cooney as well, as Aaron, which is, to be a crime, there are only certain things that are accepted, right? Bodily injury or threat of bodily injury. So that is assault, battery, sexual assault, rape, and of course, homicide. Those are the most common. Then it could also be property damage, like a burglary, a robbery, vandalism. But outside of that, the reason we know that the vast majority are not hate crimes, but hate incidents is they can involve verbal abuse, they can involve workplace discrimination, housing discrimination, and these are not crimes. They are still illegal, but they are not crimes. They are prosecuted civilly. So for that, we have, thankfully, a wonderful civil rights department in California. They also take hate incidents under what's called California versus hate. And people can get restitution, they can get help for those things that are hate incidents. So let me just say, workplace discrimination happens all the time. Housing discrimination based on race and ethnic background happens very often. But because they're not in the news as much, everyone sort of goes to hate crimes. What we need to be doing is we need civil prosecution of what is institutional discrimination, because it's also forward facing. You can get trainings for employees if they engage. I, in fact, early as a civil rights attorney, worked on the Denny's consent decree, where Denny's restaurant, the largest sit-down restaurant chain in America, was over and over again discriminating against Black and Latino customers. And so there was a nationwide training that my firm engaged in of thousands of employees so that they wouldn't continue to discriminate. So we need to look, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. And so we need to use all of the other resources at our disposal. And for that, I want to say to Stop the Hate, which is a close cousin to the program that many of you are part of with ethnic media. There are 173 organizations across the state. They help not only Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, but African Americans, Latinx, LGBTQ, Muslim, Jewish, all of these communities. And part of what's so important, yes, with hate crimes prosecution, people feel like they can get accountability. But what you can also get through Stop the Hate can be even more important and meaningful. And Cooney mentioned this, which is actual healing, right? So what Stop the Hate provides is mental health services, like both prevention as well as direct intervention. That includes mental health services, trainings, leadership development programs for youth, so that moving forward in California, we're going to be a state that doesn't have hate, right? It's not simply enough to prosecute those cases where hate happens, whether it's civilly or criminally, but to actually prevent it from happening. We are one of the most diverse states. We are the 5th largest economy in the world. And so we really need to put the kibosh on hate against all marginalized communities. And that's why we need all of the comprehensive approaches that are available. I'll stop there.
Manju, thank you so much. Michelle White Mendoza has a question. Michelle, would you please ask your question and identify your news organization? I can ask Michelle's question for her. And this is available, but Manju, if you could answer Michelle's question, do you have data of hate crimes for different ethnic groups? And I know Stop AAPI data has some of that, or Stop AAPI Hate does have some of that data broken down. Is that correct?
Correct. For the Asian American community, we have that data. I'm happy to, I will put in the chat our website. And I know that Stop the Hate, as well as California v. Hate, are recording incidents reported directly to them. So I would go to those various sources. And if it's okay, Sunita, I wanted to answer a previous question. Well, let me say this about stats. Within the Asian American community, we know that the highest number or plurality of victims are Chinese Americans, also high numbers of Korean, Japanese, but also Southeast Asians, right? Because perpetrators often can't tell us apart, right? And so some of that COVID-related hate was meted out against other ethnic communities. Even those in the South Asian community, the PI community, have experienced hate at high numbers. We will be releasing a new report in September that looks with NORC out of University of Chicago. And I'm sad to say, even in 2023, the numbers are extremely high in terms of what people have experienced. But I wanted to talk about the racist rhetoric for a second, because we are in an election year. Back in 2020, we did a report that looked at the correlation between racist rhetoric from candidates and elected officials. And sadly, at that time, nearly a fourth of incidents, actually more than a fourth, almost a third, involved language and dog whistles that were used by former President Trump, but also other candidates. We saw that again in 2022, and it was not simply one party. It was both references to China, again, to COVID, and really race baiting in order to score political points. And we know racist rhetoric leads to incidents. It also results in policies like the land bans currently in place in Florida and Georgia, where Chinese immigrants cannot buy a house, cannot buy any property simply because of their ethnic background. So again, institutional discrimination is rampant and is just as serious, if not more, in greater occurrence than hate crimes.
Absolutely. And I'm going to editorialize for a second. The Atlanta shootings, which you brought up, in that case, the sheriff that spoke said the suspect was simply having a bad day. And, I wonder if both you and Aaron could address, that sort of, I don't know what to call it, approach to prosecuting a case.
Well, can I say really quickly about that sheriff? We also found out that he was selling out of the back of his car shirts that were racist about Chinese Americans and COVID. So unfortunately, what we often do know is a number of folks in law enforcement, unfortunately, do belong to white supremacist organizations. Even here in California, a number of sheriffs are part of Proud Boys and other organizations. In fact, the Southern Poverty Law Center has done a report on law enforcement and police officers showing that there are very significant numbers of police officers that are part of these white supremacist neo-Nazi groups.
And Aaron, could I ask you to comment on that? Does Santa Clara County itself have background checks on its staff?
It's funny because I think I came into this with a very measured, we'll take responsibility where we have it and we'll advocate for change. But I get worried about words like my colleague here saying that there's very significant numbers of police officers who are white supremacists. I think we need to really be balanced and be accurate and fair. And so I prefer a discourse where people are owning their piece and they are prepared to be fair and balanced to other people. So I don't know what to say. I'm certainly not going to call out the California law enforcement system as having a significant number of white supremacists in it.
Okay, fair. We'll go to a final round of questions for all speakers. I would like each of you to provide your 30-second soundbite of what you want reporters to take away from this briefing. Montanus, why don't we start with you? Montanus, are you still there? Kuni, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
What would you like reporters to take away from your remarks? If you could provide a quick 30-second soundbite.
Could you repeat one more time, please? Sorry,
yes.
This is my second language.
Yes. What is most important to you about the conversation that we had today?
Yes, it's very important to me because I see the different view from my point of view, and I don't know how to explain it.
That's fine, Kuni. Thank you for joining us today. Very much
you for
appreciate
having
it.
me. Yes.
Thank you. Manju, your 30-second soundbite for us?
So I just want to say again that comprehensive approaches are what are needed to address hate. Again, where there are crimes and families want accountability, you have hate crimes prosecution, but there's so many other tools and strategies at our disposal. And what we're ultimately seeking is healing for our communities and moving forward a place where we don't experience hate. So it's prevention as well as direct intervention, and I think together that will enable us to move forward in a meaningful way.
Thank you. And Erin, last word to you.
Thank you. I think what I'd like people to know is that one way to make things different is to know the people behind the screens, to spend some time with Kuni or Montanas to understand what she's going through, and to meet the prosecutors and law enforcement who really do care about making a difference. And I think that it's from there that we're able to build bridges and to realize that there are good-hearted people who are part of the system who really do want the best. And I think one last piece of it is education really empowers. And so just providing that information to victims about, let me tell you exactly what I need to prove and how I need to do it. And then perhaps other things about this, Kuni, that could help me understand how we would know that this was hate motivated, or that this was the substantial reason for the crime to happen. So I think there are good opportunities here for really getting to know people and affected parties. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to get to know you all today. So thank you.
Thank you all so
Sunita,
much.
I'm here. Can I say something?
Yes, of course.
Oh, thank you everyone for being here and speaking my story, and thank you for organization and the media to supporting the 𝐓𝐇𝐈𝐒 story. I would like to encourage for the victims and Asian to keep reporting, and we can keep data into helping us for the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all our speakers today. This was such an important conversation. Reporters, thank you again for your reporting on these issues. We will not have a briefing next week. Have a happy Labor Day weekend, and we will see you on the 7th. Bye-bye.
देसी टीवी यूएसए से फिल वक्त इतना ही। मजीद खबरों और अपडेट्स के लिए देखते रहिए हमारे चैनल्स देसी टीवी यूएसए, DTV NN और हमारा OTT प्लेटफॉर्म DTV Flix, जहां पर आपको 3000 से ज़्यादा चैनल्स देखने को मिल सकते हैं।